The clock is ticking for Hunter Biden as special counsel David Weiss is now expected to indict the president's son on gun charges by the end of the month, according to a new court filing. Charges that could land him in prison for up to 10 years. Hunter Biden's attorney is pushing back, saying his client has been investigated for years and that the only thing that has changed are the politics.
They know everything there is to know about the gun possession. Hunter had a gun for 11 days. It was never loaded. It was never used. There has never been a standalone gun charge like this brought by this office ever. So then what changed? Not the facts, not the law, but we have seen over the last 6 weeks, the politics have certainly influenced the outcome.
This as House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is pushing for unrestricted access to National Archive records involving communications between then Vice President Joe Biden's office and Hunter Biden's business associates.
We know that Hunter Biden was communicating with the White House. We believe there are more that the archives are sitting on where the Hunter Biden legal team, the Hunter Biden PR people, the Hunter Biden's shady characters who were paying him were communicating through him to his father back and forth. There was no wall between Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, and his shady business dealings.
Joining me now from the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, great to have you on the program. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about the significance of this possible indictment, because theories are being floated out there that special counsel David Weiss is using this as a ploy to then go back to the kind of sweetheart deal that he had presented before, that not necessarily is this an example of justice being served.
Well, first of all, it's good to be with you. Let's unpack a couple of things. Number one, David Weiss should not even be the special counsel. It is Department of Justice regulations that a special counsel should come from outside the government. His office already screwed up the original indictment. They're the ones that put together that sweetheart deal, which Merrick Garland signed off on, by the way. They're the ones that screwed that up, and they get a second bite of the apple. That is completely wrong. Number two, the fact of the matter is, and this is to Abby Lowell, what's changed here is transparency, not politics. The fact that people of our country now understand that Hunter Biden was getting the sweetest deal known to man because his daddy is president of the United States. It's that simple. And so when you bring sunlight to this, that's why he has to be held accountable like any other citizen of our country would be held accountable. Number three, I am very concerned that because David Weiss is the special counsel and he was the original counsel on this case, that there's not going to be any thorough look at the lack of an investigation that occurred with respect to Hunter Biden, and they're going to try to clean up the original deal they had so they can sweep this under the rug and move on.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts to this. We'll be watching it as this news develops. But Congressman, I also want to get your take on the work that the House is doing with respect to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's business dealings overseas. Is it possible that there's, progress made forward on the Hunter aspect, but also that Joe Biden could face impeachment himself?
Oh, yeah, I 100% believe this is possible, and here's why. These accounts that were set up originally, the core of the tax evasion that Hunter Biden did do to the tunes of millions of dollars, the accounts that were set up were when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States. Joe Biden was in business meetings with Hunter's clients. Joe Biden was on the phone. Now we find out that there's 5,400 emails that the National Archives has had this entire time where Joe Biden is using fake names in these emails, fake email accounts, so he can communicate with business partners on the side. All the while, Joe Biden has consistently said he never knew anything about what Hunter was doing. Then they had to change the story to say he never benefited from what Hunter was doing. But there is a text message from Hunter Biden to his daughter saying that at least you don't have to pay half of your salary to me the way I have to do it to my father. This is a joke. Yeah. It is public corruption. And I believe that when we have these emails, it's going to demonstrate what we all know, which is Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have been in cahoots the entire time.
And when it comes to sort of getting to the bottom of this issue, the emails are really important. They've already exposed the fact that the president has lied to the American people time and time again on this issue. And as you mentioned, now changing the story. First it was, I didn't know about it. We never discussed it. Now I never benefited from it. But the bank records are going to be crucial in this as well. And the president made a very sort of sarcastic comment about that, about where's the money, right? But the bank records of these shell companies would eventually show where that money trail is. I know it's a little bit more complicated in the forensics to get to the bottom of that, but is any progress being made there?
Yeah, there's a lot of progress being made on this front. We've been subpoenaing records about this very thing because it's not just that Joe Biden had to take money into his accounts. If Hunter Biden was paying for things for the benefit of Joe Biden, that is more than enough. And I will also add something else. Hunter Biden is in violation of FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. He is in violation of that. If Joe Biden even knew or understood that he was representing foreign entities without being licensed to do so or registered to do so, he is a co-conspirator in a violation of the FARA regulations and statutes under the United States law.
Right. These rules have to apply equally to everybody in this country that is a citizen. Congressman, while you're here, I want to get your take on how the presidential race is shaping up. We are looking at this second Republican debate. It's going to be held right here on Fox Business. We've also got a new CNN poll that shows former President Trump is head-to-head with President Biden in a hypothetical matchup. And Trump's still expanding his primary lead over other GOP candidates, despite some recent changes and a looming trial, those recent charges, rather. This is coming as Nikki Haley's team is now blasting DeSantis and Ramaswamy as being Trump light, saying they, quote, copy Trump on everything, and other candidates argue that the GOP needs a more, quote, electable candidate than the former president. How do these arguments hold up? What can we expect to hear and see from the former president over the next few weeks? Because what I'm seeing is the more he gets out there, the more the charges pile up, the more people are supporting him.
Well, look, let me talk specifically to Republicans. As far as I'm concerned, unless somebody breaks out and takes a commanding position as the number 2 person in this race, this thing is over. You have 3 candidates, essentially, who are all basically tied, talking about Governor DeSantis, Governor Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy. If this continues to hold, this thing is done because Donald Trump is over 50% in basically every poll. And in the first couple of states, he has a massive lead, 20 to 30 points in the early states. So somebody's got to break through. I don't know who's going to do it. Frankly, I don't expect it to occur. Donald Trump is going to be our nominee. Now, let's shift to the general. Joe Biden is a terrible president, and everybody knows that. Couple that with the fact that he does look feeble. He doesn't look like he has the stature to stand up to world leaders on the global stage. That's a major problem for America going forward. So I fully believe you're going to get a replay of the 2020 elections, and people are going to look at it and say, who did the better job, the 45th president or the 46th president? It's without question the 45th president, Donald Trump, did a significantly better job, and he will be reelected as president of the United States.
Congressman Byron Donalds, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.